Hello friends, and good evening. Please, make yourself at home. Get comfortable, relax, you've had a long day. Tonight's story is a troubling one. Park rangers, isolated in nature, surrounded by all things natural, and sometimes supernatural. So, pour yourself a whiskey, or perhaps a spot of tea, and sit back and relax to a story with me. I've always loved the woods. Something about being in nature, surrounded by nothing but trees and mountains, seems very calming to me. I spent a few years as a park ranger, but I needed more isolation. So when the opportunity to work overnight in a watchtower presented itself, I took it immediately. My job would be to sit in the tower and watch around. Check for signs of a forest fire or check around to see if any overnight campers got lost. I was to stay in contact with the other watchtower far out. So I got to the tower just before 12 AM. I made myself familiar with my new home and was thankful for this promotion. I made sure I had contact with Jim, the other watchman. Throughout the beginning of the night, Jim gave me tips on how to do the job, and he told me the background of this tower. Apparently, another man was hired to work overnight here, but he quit after his first night. He said that this job wasn't for him, as he would not die in the middle of the woods. They found a journal of his in the tower. They've since returned it to him, but in the journal, he said that a man with no face chased him up the tower, got into his room that night and attempted to kill him. He got away, and that faceless man never got caught. For the next month, things were great. Nothing ever went wrong. Nights were fun, and I found a dream job for myself. That is, until the night of October 5th. I showed up to work and started doing my nightly duties. At around 2 AM, I realised that Jim and I had not made contact that night. I tried to contact him with no luck. The weird thing was, there were no lights on in Jim's tower. I ignored it and continued my work. I was walking around the balcony, checking the spotlights and saw nothing. On my way back around to the door, I happened to turn around and check back and saw a woman standing at the top of the step. A skinny white woman with blonde hair that looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks. She wore a dirty black dress and ripped black leggings. She was just staring at me with a creepy look. I asked if I could help her and if she was okay. She just looked at me and said, "Is Alan here?" To which I replied, "No, who's Alan?" She turned around and quickly walked back down the stairs. I tried to call out to her, but she was gone. So fast. Later that night, I heard a man yelling for help, so I ran down to assist him. He introduced himself as Alan, and that he was looking for his wife. I asked if his wife had blonde hair and was wearing a black dress. He said yes. I told him that I think I ran into her earlier when I was checking with the spotlights. I also told him that she was looking for him. He asked if he could come up with me. and if we could use the spotlights to see if we could find her. I told him that would be fine, told him to follow me. We headed up the tower and immediately turned on the lights. I couldn't see anything, so I told the man that he could head inside if he wanted to. I spent a few more minutes outside looking around before going back in. As I was telling him that I would check again a little later, the door slammed behind me. I turned around to see Alan's wife, the woman from before. She walked towards me, smiling, saying how much of a kind person I am, and how stupid I was to let a stranger inside my only safe space. As I backed up, I bumped into Alan. I turned around to see that he had no fucking face. I heard this god-awful, loud and terrifying muffled scream as the woman grabbed me from behind. Fucking faceless Alan charged at me, all while giving off those muffled screams. With the woman holding me from behind, I jumped up and kicked Alan back, and then threw my elbow back at the woman. I backed up towards the door, and just when I was about to open it, I was slammed against it by Alan. I dove and grabbed Alan by the legs, clipped his knees and drove him to the ground. I stood up, but Alan's wife had charged at me, only for me to bend down and sort of hip check her. She flew back against the desk and fell to the ground. Alan had stood up and ran at me with his arm out. I grabbed it and threw him at his wife, and he collapsed on top of her. That was my chance to run. So that's what I did. I opened the door, slammed it shut and locked it as I ran down the tower. As I was running down the path, I looked back and Alan and his wife were standing on the balcony waving at me. Then I noticed Alan's face was back. But what worried me more was the door to the tower locked from both sides, but only with a key. You have to use the key on both sides to lock or unlock it. And I locked the door when I ran, and I had the only key. They couldn't have busted it down because they wouldn't have gotten that door down that quick. And I would have heard them. It was getting near 6 a.m, so I just ran towards the main office for the Rangers. I got inside, and the employees were there. I went into Dave's office, who was my boss, and told him everything. He called the cops and asked me to stay to explain it to them. I explained everything to them. About Alan and his little fucking disappearing face trick. I told them about the woman I encountered. I told them about the fight we all had and everything. After the cops left, I got up and tried to leave. Dave didn't want me to quit, so he asked if I would just stay being a ranger again. I reluctantly agreed and said I was taking a few days off, and then I'd be back in on Monday. Before I left, I told Dave to make sure that he tells Jim about this the next time he sees him. Dave just looked at me and said, "Who's Jim?" "The other watchman? He's in Tower B," I said. What are you talking about?" Dave said with confusion. "You know, Jim. He's been guiding me through the nights. We were always talking over the radio and I used to see the lights on in his tower. He wasn't here last night," I stated. "We don't have a watchman named Jim. We never have. And Tower B hasn't been used for over 2 years. No one uses it anymore," Dave said. "Then who's been talking to me for the past month?" I sincerely hope you've had a wonderful time with me this evening. I know I have. So, be a lady or a gentleman and very politely tap that subscribe button. There you go. That was easy, wasn't it? Until the next time.